Hello everyone, this is Titus Malvolio. Welcome to Titus Plays. Today is a very special, inaugural episode of a new series. Okay, first of all, I just want to talk about how excited I am for the new Final Fantasy VII Remake. Final Fantasy VII, if you haven't watched my reaction to Cloud and Smash Bros. Video, I'll link it down in the description. Final Fantasy VII is my most favorite RPG of all time. And there's this very special reason for that. So back in the day when I want to say I was like 8, somewhere between 8 and 10, and I had just gotten a PS1 for Christmas. I think with my PS1, I got a demo disc that had a few different games on it. I believe it had like Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, and it also had a demo of Final Fantasy VII to be exact. And I didn't really know exactly what Final Fantasy was. I mean, I had an NES, I had an SNES, I had a Nintendo 64, but Final Fantasy, just the whole series kind of skipped my generation, mainly because I was too small to really understand RPGs at the time. But I eventually got around to playing Final Fantasy VII on this demo disc, and I was so enamored by it. I was enamored by the visuals. I was enamored by the music. I remember just being this little kid and thinking that the music alone was so cool. And in the demo, it gave you access to 2 summons. So when you got to the Scorpion robot at the end of the first Mako reactor, you could like use these summons. You could use Ifrit, or I believe the other one was Shiva, and just decimate this monster standing in your way. And it just made me so excited, and since then I just wanted to learn all about RPGs, and eventually, I think it wasn't until like another year or so later, maybe even longer than that I actually sat down and played through Final Fantasy VII, and that was my first Final Fantasy. I do believe the theory that the first Final Fantasy that you play tends to be your favorite. And I think it was Matthew Patrick of Game Theory that said that. I'm a huge fan of MatPat and all of his videos. And he said that it was the Final Fantasy VII retrospective month for the completionist. And it was in a little interview bit that the first Final Fantasy that you play is your favorite. And that's totally true, because each Final Fantasy, has its own story, has its own set of characters, has its own rules most of the time. And, it's impossible for people to, really choose what their favorite is, but that's why they always tend to lean towards the first one they ever played, because that was their introduction into the franchise. And Final Fantasy, just as a whole, they essentially just put RPGs on the map, just plain and simple. When everyone thinks of the word JRPG, Japanese role-playing game, they think Final Fantasy. And anyway, I'm rambling at this point, but Final Fantasy VII is my favorite, and they recently, at the PlayStation Experience just last week, released a new trailer for the remake. And my heart literally just sank like 5 feet right into the ground. I was totally just awestruck, like my jaw was dropped. I couldn't believe the visuals I was seeing. I couldn't believe that, all my favorite characters. I mean, obviously they all had voices in Advent Children, which was the movie that came out a while back, but they have a chance to really, flex their vocal performances. Like, I believe Steve Burton is returning as Cloud, and I love him as Cloud in Advent Children. And I know that whatever directors are, directing those movies, they have him going a more sort of emo route. But Cloud isn't emo in Final Fantasy VII. I mean, he's a little bit depressed in some areas, but that's because he doesn't really know who he is throughout the game. But he's really sarcastic. Like he's a fucking like asshole most of the time in Final Fantasy VII. So I'm really excited to see Steve Burton play that more asshole-ish Cloud if they decide to, you know, stay true to the original game's script. And it looks like they are for the most part. I mean, there were a few differences in the dialogue here and there in that trailer, but for the most part, I could tell that they're going to try to stay as true as possible. You know, to the whole experience of the original Final Fantasy VII. And it was almost word for word. I mean, I'm going to go back and, you know, see if I can't find all the differences. But if a lot of the script in the remake is going to be word for word from the original, you know, minus the typos, and it's a huge joke that they got to keep the typos in. But anyway, whatever the case, I'm probably just going to make this first episode this explanation because I think it's a really huge deal. It's a really huge deal personally for me to be able to go back and re-experience Final Fantasy VII as an adult, to experience it how I visioned it while I was playing as a kid. Because when you're a kid, you know, your imaginations, you know, they just roll themselves out the door in all manner of speeds and frequencies. And when I was playing it as a kid, you know, all the visuals that we're seeing in these trailers for the remake, that's how it was to me as I was playing the original. You know, minus the blocky, you know, visuals of the overworld. But yeah, that's how I saw it. Like in my head, like in you know, whatever dreams I had about this game when I was a kid. Like that's how I visioned it. And it's so cool that we live in a day and age where technology has advanced so much in video games or phones or whatnot, that we can go back and experience these games in a whole new light. And it just makes me extremely happy, plain and simple. What you're looking at right now is the Midgar custom theme for PS4 that you get when you purchase the original Final Fantasy VII, which just released for PS4. I forgot to mention. It's the Steam version for PC that they ported to PS4. So it's the original game, but all the character models are a little bit cleaner. And it's HD output. Technically, it's not HD graphics, but the output is HD. So it just runs fairly smoother. And they released it in conjunction with the PlayStation Experience conference or whatever that they just had when they revealed the new remake trailer. They released this game. So I, you know, of course, as soon as I got home, I booted up my newly acquired PS4, by the way, booted it up and bought the game. And I want to play it. I want to play it for my channel. I want to try to play it as much as possible. I might not finish it for the channel, but I really want to strive to do so because I really want to revisit the game in its, you know, in its original state. Now that I'm a little bit older, the last time I played through the whole game, I believe was like 5 to 6 years ago. You know, when I was an older teenager, I guess. When I was a kid, I never finished the game because it was kind of difficult. But when I was a teenager, I actually played through it and finished it. So now, as I guess a fully fledged adult, I really want to go back and experience it again, and try to see it through adult eyes. Obviously, I have revisited the story, through my own means, like through vicariously through other, YouTubers or whatnot, but I just really want to experience it again for myself before the remake comes out, because I want to be able to appreciate just how much time and effort and love is going into the remake to make it as Final Fantasy VII as possible. But, in this whole new day and age with visuals and gameplay. Anyway, so I didn't mean for this first video to be just 10 minutes of me talking, so I'll probably put up visuals of the FF7 remake trailers or whatnot. But I just wanted to, just kind of explain like how important Final Fantasy VII is to me. And yeah, I guess I'm just extremely excited to be able to play it for my channel and, maybe share it with others who haven't experienced it just as well as I have. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you're as excited to go on this journey again with me as I am. And I'll get the first few videos up just as soon as possible. I'm gonna record them all in this session, and hopefully I'll be able to roll some videos out all throughout the week. So please stay tuned, and thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys later.